Hey guys, we're here in Iowa City. I wanted to do this before we get into our topic of don't move here, but I want to show you the old Capitol building, was a Capitol. And also behind me is the kind of the main street, real awesome. It's got some bars behind me, but nice place. But anyways, let's get into the video right now. Iowa is not for everybody. And in the box that you'll see here shortly, there's 15 things that I've observed as living here in the area my entire life that you're gonna see and you're gonna not probably like. So we're gonna get right into the box here shortly, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna be totally honest with you throughout the entire video. So if you can handle these, you can handle anything here in Iowa City. Number one, hold on tight because we're diving straight into my area of expertise, housing prices. Brace yourself because Iowa City is known for its jaw-dropping beauty and robust economy, but it comes with a price tag. According to Zillow.com, the average home price here is a whopping $285,000. Now let's put on our comparing hats. When stacked against Iowa's average home price of just $211,000, Iowa City shines as a pricier gem. But fear not, with its alluring charm and thriving opportunities, it's no wonder why Iowa City commands such demand and value. Number two on the list will make you take a step back into your younger days, and that is party culture here in Iowa City. Iowa City is home to the second largest university in the state, and that is the University of Iowa. It is second in enrollment to Iowa State University. With the university in Iowa City, you get a younger demographic of people. With that comes partying. If you want peace and quiet in your city at night, and especially on the weekends, then you may not want to consider Iowa City to live in, as it is bumping at night. Maybe consider an Iowa City suburb instead if peaceful nights and weekends are a must. Next up, let's go to number three, watch out, deer. That's what runs through your head when a deer jumps out on the road or jumps out in front of the vehicle on the highway. In 2021 and 2022, according to Google, you have about a 1 in 60 chance of hitting a deer here in Iowa. A few years back, we hit a deer in the fall and almost totaled our F-150 truck. The deer ran out in front of the truck and there was nothing we could do. Luckily, the truck was drivable, but had significant damage to the front passenger side. It ended up being over $7,000 in damages to the truck. The deer was a large-bodied buck, and we were going around 65 miles per hour. We were lucky we hit it with our truck and not our small Ford Focus car. Now here's more data for you here, as Iowa consistently ranks in the top 5 states most likely to hit a deer, with a few years being ranked number 1. The species that we have here in Iowa are white-tailed deer, and they get fairly large, with the male buck weighing as much as 225 pounds. You also have raccoons, coyotes, possums, and more to look out for, but beware of those deer. Avoid the early morning and right before dark if you can, as this is when they are most likely to get hit. Also in the fall during breeding season is another time to be extra vigilant. We definitely avoid those times as much as possible after hitting that big buck. Let's get back into the box here. All right, what do we have next? And we got parking. Parking here is not a lot of fun, and everywhere you park there seems to be a fee. You even have to pay in order to shop at one of the new Pioneer grocery stores, which absolutely sucks. Side note, that new Pioneer has great selection though. Anyways, back to parking. The city has only around 76,000 people, but it is packed and tight, making parking hard to find. We have family members who work at the hospital, and they have to park at a bus stop and then take the bus to work at the hospital, as they have to pay so much in order just to park in Iowa City. There is no way around it, as it is a pain in the you-know-what to park in Iowa City. When there is an Iowa Hawkeye football or basketball game, it gets even crazier when it comes to parking. Many people that live there take advantage, as they charge football fans money to park in their yards. It gets crazy when there are home football games in Iowa City. With a growing population and no more room to spare, it will not get better anytime soon. Now we are on to number 5, storms, derechos, and tornadoes. Frightening is the word that comes to mind when you hear those 3 words. The thunderstorms can be very powerful, with large amounts of rain, hail, sleet, and even develop into a derecho or even tornadoes. A few years back, just north of Iowa City, 30 miles in Cedar Rapids, there was an extremely powerful storm called a derecho. And that went through the heart of Cedar Rapids, the entire city. It caused significant damage with winds over 120 miles per hour for over 45 minutes straight. The entire area was left without power, and some went 2 weeks or more without power in the heat of summer. It was a storm that will live on in history forever. You also have potential for tornadoes in Iowa City, with one hitting near there this spring. That also caused significant damage to homes and fields in the direct path of the tornado. Thunderstorms, derechos, hail damage, and tornadoes are something you will need to know and prepare for if you come to Iowa City. If any or all of them scare you, then you may not want to consider living here. Next up on the list at number 6 is the worst, and that is humidity. If this isn't my least favorite one on the list, it is up there for living in Iowa City. Heck, living in Iowa. Iowa is consistently ranked in the top 5 states that are the most humid. According to some websites, Iowa has been the most humid state in some of the years. I believe this is in large part because of all the corn grown here in Iowa that traps in the moisture. Let me know in the comments if you think that the Iowa humidity is caused by the corn being grown, or why you think it is so humid in Iowa. If you're someone who easily sweats like myself, then you may be uncomfortable in the summer months, as you just cannot get dry outdoors here in Iowa, especially in the summer. If a drier climate is what you're looking for, then you don't want to move to Iowa City and all of Iowa for that matter. All right, let's get back into the old box here and let's talk about property taxes in good old Iowa City. With high real estate prices comes higher property taxes. This rings true for Iowa City as well. Johnson County, where Iowa City resides, has the highest property taxes of any county in Iowa. This means that not just Iowa City, but the suburbs as well will have a higher tax rate. If you move to Iowa City, be aware of this and factor that into your budget. This is why a local agent like myself with the Living in Iowa team is so important. We would love to help you, so contact us from the information you'll see on the screen right now, and you can also find our info in the description below. Moving on to number 8, with not a fan of the University of Iowa Athletics, or better known as the Iowa Hawkeyes. The people in Iowa City and all throughout the state of Iowa are absolutely fanatical about the Iowa Hawkeyes. There is a fierce rivalry in Iowa, and that is if you like Iowa or Iowa State. Every year I have relatives or friends who banter on Facebook about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Either they are getting into it with Iowa State fans or complaining about the Iowa Hawkeye coaches. It can get rather annoying if you're not fanatical about the Iowa Hawkeyes like myself. If you are moving into Iowa City area, come with an expectation that the people love the Iowa Hawkeyes. Sometimes a little too much. Let's keep it rolling with number 9, winter. Now, if you're a crazy person like myself, it is not a reason at all not to move here. But I used to hate the winter myself until I picked up the hobby of ice fishing. Now I look forward to winter. And if you aren't crazy like myself, this is probably a huge problem for you, as usually this is one of the major factors contributing to avoiding Iowa altogether. The truth is, it gets cold here in Iowa City, and sometimes really, really cold. Typically in January and February, or even both, it can be brutally cold with sub-zero temperatures, not a surprise to people who live in the area. Winter also can extend from November all the way to April. Usually it isn't extreme cold like the sub-zero temperatures throughout that span, but they do happen each year. With the cold comes the snow, and we get moderate amounts of snow each year. This can make roadways slippery and dangerous. Be aware that winter in Iowa City and Iowa alone is no joke. We are just over halfway through the list, but why don't you comment down below at the end of this video, which one of these do you feel is the worst thing about living in Iowa City? And if you've heard of something else that I don't have in the list, let me know and I'll shoot a video on that. All right, let's scoot on down the list here. What do we got? Leaning liberal next. Now this is a very volatile subject here. I told you we would be honest, so I will be. Iowa City is extremely, extremely liberal. You can't go more than a block, it seems, without signs in the yard showing their pride with pride flags, or signs that say, in this house, we believe Black Lives Matter, women's rights are human rights, no human is illegal, science is real, love is love, kindness is everything. I've been looking around for any Trump flags or flags supporting the Republican Party, and I have not yet seen one of them. The data also supports this opinion, as it is a simple Google search shows that Iowa City continuously votes extremely Democratic. Right, wrong, or indifferent, if you move to Iowa City, expect a strong community support of the Democratic Party. We are now at number 11 with flood risks. The Iowa River flows through the heart of Iowa City. The problem with the Iowa River, like most other rivers in the state, is that it is a very shallow river. That means that even when we experience a low amount of precipitation and the river lowers, that does not mean that the flood risk lowers that much. Any rain that is over 3 to 4 inches quickly raises the river levels and can even cause flooding. Flash flooding is a term used here to describe a rain that is going to produce a flood quickly. If high amounts of rainfall continues for a few days or weeks, then flooding can get significantly worse and cause damage like it did recently back in 2008 when 270 million in flood damages happened here in Iowa City, which with inflation would now be over 400 million in damages. That is why you need the top relocation team in Iowa by your side with our Living in Iowa team. We can break down the local problems such as flooding to you and make sure you are aware of the flood zones here. Reach out to the number on the screen right now if you have any questions, and again, our info is in the description below. Now we're getting somewhere with number 12 of no professional sports teams. Heck, there isn't even a minor league team in Iowa City. That is why people cling to the Iowa Hawkeyes so close. Iowa City and Iowa in general has a grand total of 0 professional sports teams, with a few minor league teams scattered throughout the larger cities in Iowa. The closest minor league teams are the Cedar Rapids Colonels baseball team and the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders hockey team to Iowa City. The closest professional sports teams is going to be in Chicago. That drive takes approximately 4 hours from Iowa City, depending on the traffic near Chicago. Now let's keep it going with number 13, home ownership percentage. The home ownership in Iowa City is quite low, with websites stating that the percentage of homeowners who own their own home is anywhere between 46 and 53% depending on the website you use. The reason for this is fairly obvious, as we have mentioned this throughout this list, and that is because the University of Iowa, with the college-aged adults living here for the school season, the amount of rentals is higher than most other cities across Iowa in the United States. Comparing Iowa City to other cities nearby of Cedar Rapids, whose home ownership sits at approximately 74%, and Des Moines sitting at 60%. If you want neighbors who are going to stick around for a long time, then you may want to reconsider Iowa City, as there's tons of people renting in the city. Next up is number 14, insects and pests. With all the nice precipitation for farming and lush green landscapes around the state, also comes bugs and pests. In the spring comes warmer weather and the bugs follow along. We have mosquitoes here that are vicious. Mosquitoes always attack me ever since I could remember. I remember going fishing in northeast Iowa on the Mississippi River with my dad when I was younger. We decided to sleep in my red Jeep Cherokee and left the windows cracked as it was a really warm night here in Iowa. I woke up with tons of bug bites and my ankles were swollen due to all the mosquito bites. With that being said, you need to have bug spray if the mosquitoes here find you tasty. On top of mosquitoes, you have gnats that typically don't bite, but they love to hang around your eyes, nose, and ears. If you live here for any amount of time, you will get a gnat in your mouth, nose, or ear, or all three. They can drive a person crazy, so make sure to get some bug spray for them as well. Then there is this black bug that I don't know the name of, but they come around every so often. They are really small, but they bite when they're around, and you'll know when they're here. We went to Texas recently for a trip to see a friend, and they had fire ants there that are not in Iowa. I would have to say I would rather deal with the mosquitoes, gnats, and black bugs, all three of them, any day over those crazy fire ants. Man, those ants suck. I got bit multiple times by them, and I actually tried avoiding them. So leave in the comments the worst pests or bugs in your area if you live in Iowa or outside the state. Last but not least is the impact of the university activities. To be honest, this is a huge deal in Iowa City. Like mentioned before, there are home football games that the parking is absolutely crazy, as well as the traffic for hours. When our son was at the University of Iowa Hospital, the nurse that was on shift told us about how much planning went into just getting to work on home football games. was for her. This is something to know for sure before moving here. Also, they are always working on the roads near the university and building new buildings. Overall, the university is the lifeblood of the city. So if the negatives of that impact on the city is a deal breaker for you, then you may want to avoid this city altogether. Whoa, this just got put in the backs. You may be asking yourself, why in the world all these negatives would anyone live in Iowa? That's because Iowa kicks you know what. You have such diversity in all the cities, including Iowa City that we just covered. And Iowa Nice is a real thing. You will be accepted and have neighbors that are extremely neighborly. We know lots of people are moving south to Texas and Florida as well. But here in Iowa, you don't have those scorpions, pythons, alligators, and worst of all, fire ants. We work with many people relocating to America's heartland here in Iowa, and they all seem to love it as much as us. If you also want to know the different parts of the state of Iowa, such as Cedar Rapids, check out this video on the pros and cons of Cedar Rapids. It's linked above. It's quite a bit different, but that is a good thing because you have options. To learn more about Cedar Rapids, just click that link above, like I said, and thanks guys, and we'll see you on the next video.